Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Focus Your Ads. In this episode, we're going to be taking you through creating a Performance Max campaign. So it's going to be different than just talking about Performance Max. I'm actually going to be creating one with you. So I'm going to talk through it and explain my choices as I go through the settings. It's going to essentially help you to understand how to create your own Performance Max, what settings you might want to turn on, what ones you might want to turn off, what kind of choices you might want to make when you're talking about ad copy and different things like that. I'm obviously going to have to limit what I'm talking about because this is a client's account. I can't go into exact details about what kind of ad copy we're looking at, but I can explain what kind of choices I'm making when I'm looking at the ad copy. But we're going to go through it. So stick with me here and let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the plus button on the main page. There's that big campaign plus button. That's what I'm going to hit. Click on that and I'm going to go new campaign. We're going to brought up. We have now a screen here that says, what's your campaign objective? So this is where you get to tell Google what your objective is with this promotion. So with me, I'm dealing with an e-commerce store. So my objective here is to get more sales. So if you have a different objective like brand awareness and reach, this is going to essentially change what Google is going to target when it comes to conversions. And if you have a lot of conversions set up, this is going to change how it sets your goal. It's going to change how Google looks at your goals. So for me, I wanted to target purchases. So we're going to go with sales, which is going to allow it to target purchase automatically. And then brings up another drop down here that says use these conversion goals to improve sales. And it has a choice and I can pick between purchases and I have actually phone call leads on there. If you want to customize this, you can hit the add goals button. You can actually add some more stuff in there, or you can hit the three dots on the right. There's three dots and it gives you another menu and you can actually remove different goals if you want. And you can create custom goals for it. So you don't have to be stuck to just purchases. Now, when it comes to Performance Max, I have tested this where I've had add to carts checkouts as a conversion goal, but I've strayed away from that because I found it's almost like it can be manipulated with add to carts and checkouts, and it seems to cause a little bit of a decline in some of my accounts. I see a little bit of a decline with sales with this method. As of lately, I've been moving towards purchase only, and this is to ensure that we get the proper data in our accounts. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. I'm going to go purchase and I'm going to leave phone call leads because I think phone call leads is important to most clients. And if we were going to talk about setting up phone calls, there's a lot more we could talk about there, but we won't get into that right now. So I'm going to hit continue. And we're brought up with another drop down here that comes up and asks what kind of campaign we want. So obviously we're going to be doing a Performance Max, but we have the choice of search, display, shopping, video, discovery, or Performance Max. So we're going to go into Performance Max in this case. And it continues to drop down further. Now I have the client's feed, which is automatically populated. So if it doesn't, you're going to have to look at that. And if you don't see it there, you're going to have to obviously go into the Merchant Center and see what's going on there. And then we have another menu down below. It gives us campaign name. So with campaign names, make sure you add something descriptive. So it allows you to later look at this and say, I understand what's going on in this campaign because I can just look at the campaign name. So I could have maybe, most times I will start with something like Performance Max. So that's what I'm going to do in this case, Performance Max. And in this case, I know it's not really the nicest way to write it, but I'm doing PMax because it's shorter. So PMax, and then we're going to add in the name of the product that I'm targeting. In this case, Performance Max is going to be targeting one specific product, not necessarily all the products. And this is because this campaign is running really well with a lot of products. And I want to narrow it down to just a single product. I don't want to take over everything with Performance Max yet. So I'm testing it. I'm testing the waters with different brand names. I've already done this on a couple brand names and it's worked really well. So I'm slowly transitioning some of these brands over to Performance Max in order to get the most out of them. So it's Performance Max, and then I put a little dash, and I'm going to write in the name of this brand. So it's Performance PMax dash brand name. And then what I do, I'm not doing this yet. Actually, I will, because I know what kind of bidding strategy I'm going to use. In brackets, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll write the bidding strategy in there. And that way, if I know that if I have this set on maximize conversions, or maximize conversion value, I can look at the campaign name and automatically I know what it's set at. So I don't have to dig into this. This is especially important in, say, a shopping campaign or a search campaign where you want to know if it's on manual bids or automated, and especially if you're running lots of accounts like I am. So this helps me to stay organized. If it's your only account, it's not as much of a problem because you probably know what bidding strategy you're running. So I'm going to, in this case, go max, and then I do CV in capitals. So that's max conversion value. I'm going to hit continue. So it brings us to our bidding page. Now we get to choose what kind of bidding strategy we want to use. I've already mentioned that we're going to be going on conversion value. So I'm going to stick with conversion value as our bidding strategy. I'm not going to set a target. It asks right away, do you want to set a target return on ad spend? So this is optional, and Google will push target return on ad spend as you continue. And actually, I try to avoid it a little bit because I like to have as high of a return on ad spend as I possibly can. And that's what conversion value, max conversion value, is going to do. When you have a target, now you're saying, Google, I want to get this target. But it doesn't mean that it's going to reach a higher target because you set that goal. It means that if, for example, if Google can't fulfill that target, it's going to dip down the spend. So if you have, let's say you want to spend $200 a day, you have a pretty good budget, $200 a day, and you don't want to spend that unless Google can hit that target. So if you want, let's say 10 times return on ad spend, that's 1,000%. If you set that as your goal and Google can only get 800% return on ad spend or an 8x return on ad spend, now the actual spend is going to dip down a bit until they can get back up to that 10 times return on ad spend. And the reason is because now they can go for a lower cost per click and then hopefully get you the numbers that you want to have. But your spend is going to drop. So a lot of times when I'm dealing with this, I want to spend, let's say I want to spend $100 a day, and I want to spend that no matter what. And I'm going to try to optimize things in the account to get my return on ad spend. So I'm kind of reversing it. When you set a target, you're telling Google, okay, only get this if you can hit the target. In my case, I'm saying it doesn't matter. If you go to 800%, I still want you to spend my entire budget. If you can get to 14x, then great, go for it. And so it allows it to really expand. And I like this method, and I like to leave it off, at least at the beginning. The next one here, we have optimized campaign for acquiring new customers. Okay, so it explains this over here on the side beside this, and it says, by default, your campaign bids equally for new and existing customers. However, you can configure your customer acquisition settings to optimize for acquiring new customers. So if there's a different value for a new customer, then this might be something you have to look into. I'm not going to go check this off right now, and most times I do not check this off. But if you have a big account and you want to optimize for new customers versus existing customers, then this might be something that you check off. So if I check this off, it gives me some more options here, and I can bid higher for new customers, or I can actually bid only on new customers. So this is a way to focus more on those new customers. So if you don't want to remarket as much, you want to have more focus on new customers, then this is what you would check off. I'm going to leave mine unchecked. Next, we have our campaign locations, and you'd think this would be straightforward, but it's not. And actually, you can't do everything in here. So this is one you have to keep in mind. We're going to have to come back to it because you can't fix everything right here. So I'm going to select enter another location. The reason I do this instead of selecting the actual location. So let's say if you're in the United States, you could click the United States button. That's great, but now you have no other choices. You can't put a negative in there. So I like to have enter another location, and then in that box, it brings up a search box. I'm going to type in United States. In this case, it's a US brand or US company. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a negative in here. So I'm going to type in, let's say we don't want to show up on Hawaii. And then when I hover over Hawaii, I have target, exclude, or nearby. So we're going to use exclude on this. So I'm going to exclude Hawaii and then do the same for Alaska. And this is due to shipping. So if I know the brand doesn't want to ship to Hawaii and Alaska, then we will exclude those. Or if there's other states or depending where you are, provinces that you don't want to include, you can go through them this way and you can exclude them. Languages, I'm going to leave mine as English only. You can always select different languages if you want. Then there's final URL expansion. So I'm going to leave this because I like to have this on. If you turn this off, Google will use for remarketing, they'll use the actual website URL that you put in there. So if you have your main homepage as a URL, they're going to use that, and that's going to be the only thing they use. If you let them change this for you, let's say that maybe you convert better with a certain category page. Now Google's going to see that and it's going to tweak that. And maybe if the text that someone typed in matches a certain brand, they're going to send them to a page that makes more sense for that customer rather than sending them directly to your homepage. So this allows them to make some changes in that way. So I usually leave this as send traffic to most relevant URLs on your site. But this, if you have, say, if you are very particular about where they get sent, or maybe you're working with a client that only wants you to send traffic to a certain location, then you will want to have this on only send traffic to URLs you provided. And you can actually add multiple asset groups in and control this in a way. So it is something you can do, but I'd like to, with a Performance Max, if I'm going Performance Max, it means I want to see if I can let the Google system work for me. And I want to make sure I'm optimized for that. I'm not trying to take control manually in a campaign like this, and that's why I want to give them control in this area. If it doesn't work though, or something, or you're getting traffic to odd places, you can actually exclude URLs in here, or you could set it to only send traffic to URLs you provided. So that's an option. And then we're going to go into more settings. If there's a more settings button, I always click into it to see what's in there. Never leave any settings button unclicked. You want to see what's in there. So there's ad schedule all day. So I'm going to do all day for this. E-commerce, I would generally just do all day. If you're running a business it's only open certain hours, then yeah, you might be able to get away with doing certain hours. I would probably leave all day with a Performance Max campaign, no matter what, unless you have a big company that you're working with, or you are a big company and you only want to focus on certain hours, then, and you have that data, and between other hours, it doesn't make sense. Because what's going to happen in Performance Max, it's going to adjust these things for you. So just because you have all day set doesn't mean it's going to be spending the same amount of money at 3 a.m. as it will during the day. So just keep that in mind. Start and end dates. I always leave my end date open. My start date is going to be today. Campaign URLs. I'm not going to worry about tracking data on this. I have mine set to automatically track, and that's by default in Google Ads. So if you haven't changed any of the tracking data, then don't worry about it. It'll automatically track all your URLs properly. But if you're working with someone, or if you are someone that needs to have some tracking URLs set up for maybe a CRM or something like that, you can set that up in here. Okay, and that should be it. That's all we need to do. And let's continue, hit next. Now we're getting into our first asset group. So you need to create one asset group for your Performance Max to continue. So we're going to create it. We're going to name our asset group. So I like to call the first one maybe general or main asset group or something like that, something that's generic. I want to create this one because I find sometimes the most generic asset group actually performs the best. And this is one that's focused on your entire website, especially if you have an e-commerce store. This is one that's focused on sending people to your homepage. So it has information that applies to your entire website, not just a specific product. So that's why I call it general. And later on, you can actually add in different asset groups that apply different products or different brands. So under listing groups, there's a little pencil that's beside all products. And if you have lots of products and you only want to specify certain products, this is where you're changing that. Keep in mind that you can only drop it down one level. So what I mean by that is if you have brand and then you have product types as well, and then you have item IDs, and maybe you want to break it down so you can see the product types, the brands, the item IDs all in kind of a list format, you can't do that here. You can do it to one level. So pick the top level. So if you wanted to break down the brands first, break it down to brands. So you go in, you click on that pencil, and then you can use selection of products. And then you're going to type or change it to brands, and then you're going to find the brand you want to select. So if you have multiple brands, if you're only one brand, then maybe you're doing this with item IDs or product types or something like that. Okay, I found the brand I want to target. I click check it off and I hit save. Now I can't break that down any further. So I have my brand in there, but I can't break it down to item IDs. You can later though. You have to go into the listing groups later and you can actually change this. So keep that in mind. These might be things you want to write down and visit after you're done setting this up. So now we're going down to final URL. So in my case, because I'm targeting a certain brand and not my entire website, I'm going to use a final URL that is based around a product brand. So I'm going to go onto their website here, and I'm actually going to find a page that showcases that brand. So this client is actually set up in a way that I can just go in and find the brand name. It's nice to have, but maybe if you don't have that set up or you don't want that set up, you can actually use the search bar, type in a search, hit enter, and go to the page. Now grab that URL. And when someone shows up on your page, they're actually going to have that search implemented already. So they're going to be able to go straight to the search. They're going to see the page that you've brought up with your search. So if you had to search for, let's say we're using Nikes, if maybe Nike's one of your brands, you type in Nike into the search. Now you're going to see all the Nike shoes in a search. And this is, of course, I'm using Shopify in this case, but if you're using a different platform, I'm sure it'll work in that as well. But it's going to give you a unique URL up top. So you grab that unique URL and you paste that into final URL. And that'll be what the customer is going to land on for remarketing. And of course, like I mentioned before, Google is going to shift that, adjust that if it thinks there's a better URL it could land on. So if maybe one of the products that you have under that brand is really important to this person and they type in, they're searching for that product, Google may change the URL to actually send them directly to that product, especially if you have a feed attached, because now Google can see that there's a feed and they'll understand that this product is an actual product on your store, and they might send them directly to that product page rather than the category page or whatever page that you sent them to originally. So in this case, I grabbed a collection page for that brand name, and then I'm going to go down to the next one here, and I see calls. So we want to make sure we have a call extension if you have a phone number on your website. I highly suggest having a phone number if you can. Now, if you have already a call extension set up from another campaign, it's going to show up probably at the account level. You may have it set up at the account level already, but you can always add it directly onto this one just in case. So go in the plus calls and you're going to see that just compare your phone number, make sure it's the right one, and you'll check it off and just hit apply. Now, automatically you have a phone number that can show up on your ads. Scroll down a little bit here. All right, so the next one we have down here is images. So obviously images are going to be very important. So we click on plus images and we're going to find there's two different bars at the top. There's asset library. You may even have one more. Sometimes there's a third one that shows up as well. But in this case, I have asset library, website or social, and then there's an upload button beside that. So in this case, I have them on the website. I want to scan the website for images. And this is the easiest way to bring them in. If you can't do this, you can always hit the upload button and you can bring them in off your computer. So in this case, I'm hitting the website and it automatically has my final URL in there. And it may have found a few, but if it's a collection page, they might be lower quality versions of those images. So you can try it. If they're big enough, they have to be about 1,000 pixels in order to let you use all the different types of images that you can use. When you're using images, there's 3 different sizes that will be needed. There's a 1.91 by 1. So this is kind of a wider image. Then there's a 1 by 1 image, which is a perfect square. Then there's a 4 by 5 image. So the 4 by 5 is more like a portrait photo. You should try to ensure that you have multiple of each of these different image sizes. That's going to allow Google to rotate these in and out depending on what ones are performing the best. Now, because I only found 2 that worked in this case, so that's not really enough. So for me, I want to have at least probably 8 or 9 or 10 images that work for this brand, and I might add in more later. So what I'm going to do to get more images is I'm not going to upload them. I'm actually going to click into the product pages. So I click into one of my product pages. I'm going to take and copy that link, that URL, and I'm going to paste it into where it says scan your websites. It's going to scan my website again. And in this case, it's probably going to bring up some better quality images. And it depends. Sometimes it won't pull up all the images because you may have some kind of security on your website that's not allowing it to pull those images off. And in that case, you're going to have to either download them from your website or get their originals and upload them. So in this case, it did find some images. Again, some of them are smaller. It gives you a size on them. So I'm trying to find ones that are over 1,000. And I did find a few here. So I have one, I'm using the 1x1. I'm clicking off on the other ones. So once you select an image, you can click on the different sizes that you want. And when you do click on those sizes, you can now adjust things. So for example, I have the wide image, but really my image is kind of tall. Like the product I'm looking at is tall. So you want to move this around. You can take that crop, it's like a cropping tool. You can take it, you can shrink it to a certain degree, and you can make it fit your product as best you can. Don't force it. If it's really not going to work, then find a different image for that product. Okay, I have another version here as well. I'm going to also check off all three. Each time I check off a different size, it counts as a different image. And you can only add so many images. I believe it's 20 images. That's the most you can have in your one asset. So don't go too crazy on just one product if you have multiple products you're trying to showcase. Kind of give yourself a bit of a variety. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to find another product that looks a little different, and I'm going to grab the URL from that product. I'm going to go into my images again in Google Ads, and I'm going to paste it in the scan your website area. It's going to now continue scanning my website. So it finished scanning my website, and it didn't really pull in too many images. It's a smaller size image. So the only one I can use is the 1x1 size. So that's okay. I'm going to use it anyways, and I'm going to save that one. I'm going to see if I can find maybe one more that has a bit better sizing, and hopefully I can get a better image from it. So we're going to do this one more time. Go edit my image. I'm going to paste this into scan your website, and we're going to see what we get. So this one did a better job. Well, not a better job. I just have better images for this product. So I have images that are over 1200 pixels. So that's great. So I'm grabbing one of those. I'm going to make sure I have all the sizes selected, and I'm going to adjust each size to ensure I get the best image. If the image has a lot of white space around it, just shrink the cropping tool around that image and get the closest you can. You want to have a nice tight image. You don't want to have a lot of space around it. And you can see what it's going to look like in the little thumbnail below. Okay, so I'm going to select those, and I think we are good to go. I have about 12 images. I'm going to take one more quick look around the website and just see if there's any other images I want. Also take a look at your homepage, because maybe you have more of a active lifestyle type image that would work for this product. And if there's anything that stands out, you can grab those as well. All right, so I got one more image, and it just happens to be a square image. The only one I can put on there because it's only like 3 or about 400 pixels, just too small to have the other sizes. So we'll save that. If you can't find an image that works, you can boost the image a little bit, but be careful because it's going to get more blurry. But if you, for example, use a program like Photoshop or the free version, which a free version of that kind of tool, which is GIMP. I use GIMP a lot as well if I don't want to pay the monthly fees for Photoshop. But just be careful. You can scale the image up, but it's not going to be as crisp as it once was. So the best way to do it is to get a better shot of that. If it's your own product, take a better picture. If it's someone else's product, reach out to that company and see if you can get a better image. You want to have images that are around 1,000 at least, 1,000 pixels at least. Okay, so we continue down here. We have now videos. So videos is an interesting one, but you don't need them right away. Actually, before we go to videos, I skipped one here. It's because it's already pre-filled out. So yours might be pre-filled out as well, but it's logos. So let's go into logos before we get into videos. So logos, if we go edit logos, it's the same thing as images, except for you have different size requirements. So now we have a 1x1, so a square, or a 4x1, so it's a really long rectangle. So those are the two sizes that you can use. So you have to find two images, at least two images. The max is 5. That'll work for your brand. So if you have a logo, you have a brand name, try to find two different versions, a square version and a rectangle. And this might require you editing those photos to make sure that they're the right size. So using Photoshop or GIMP or something like that, or even something like Canva will work. So Canva is actually a really easy one to use. And if you go online, you can use I think it's canva.com, canva.com. And if you use that program, it's probably the simplest video or photo editing software you can use. Well, it's not necessarily software, but it's an online tool that you can use to really edit images. I highly suggest using that one. It's probably going to save you a ton of time versus learning Photoshop and understanding layers and all that. The same with GIMP. GIMP is like Photoshop, and you have to understand layers and all kinds of tools. Whereas Canva, it's pretty simple to use, and it's actually very powerful. You can even remove backgrounds from different items, and it automatically do that for you with the AI. So great tool. But anyways, that's what you do for logos. Find a great logo for yourself and add it in there. Then videos. If you don't have a YouTube channel, you won't be able to add any videos. But if you do have some videos describing your products, and I highly suggest if they are your products to actually create some videos around your products and talk about them and just create. It doesn't have to be a completely professional, polished video. Someone just talking about your products and looking around it saying like, this is my product, this is how you do it, almost like an unboxing type video. Those will work great, but they have to be on YouTube. So you have to upload them to YouTube to use them. And then it's really easy to add them in here. So once they're on YouTube, you can search YouTube in this area here. Once you go to the videos, you can search YouTube by typing in the URL of that video, or you can even just type in a keyword or the channel name. Don't use other people's videos though. It will allow you to use them. You'll have problems in the future unless you have permission to use them. So if you do find a video, maybe it's a great video of your product and someone else is presenting it, reach out and see if you can use that on your ad. If nothing else, it's going to give them more views for that video. So if it is your product and they're doing a review on it and you love the review, see if you can use that for your ad. All right, next we have headlines. Besides photos, I would say this and photos are probably the most important parts of your ad. So keep that in mind, really think this through. Another tool, if you're having trouble thinking of headlines, is ChatGPT. I use this and I have the paid version of this because I use the ChatGPT 4 and it's just a little bit smarter and it helps give me ideas. But ultimately, you want to think about your customers. So what do they want? They want to know that it's a great product. They want to know that it's shipped when it's shipping, all these type of things. If this is just a generic asset group you're making, then you might want to definitely have something about free shipping if that's the case. So a lot of times I'll just write free shipping, which I'm doing right now, because I want to showcase free shipping. That's 100% one of the things I want to showcase, because people, especially with this, Google may be using this for your remarketing, and showing that you have free shipping is a big one, because a lot of these stores don't have free shipping and we're all competing against Amazon. And if you don't have free shipping, Amazon probably does. So they're going to go there. In this case, I'm going to write some more ad copy for my client, but just think of it from your customer's point of view, not your point of view, your customer's point of view. You want to make sure that they are getting the things that they want, not you. It doesn't matter what you want. It's all about them. So just keep that in mind when you're writing these. So another little tip here is if you have any kind of promotion running, add it in as a headline. You can add in some words like maybe there's a spring sale and you could add in a certain percentage for that. So this is a great place to add in promotions if you have anything running. You may also want to say if you're an authorized dealer for this company. So that's another one, just a little thing that you might want to add in there. Or if you are the company, maybe have official and something else beside that, or official and then your name. Try to stay away from your brand name too much. Like you don't want to have 5 different ways of saying your brand name. Your brand name really doesn't mean a whole lot to these customers, but having it in there once at least is probably a good plan. But any more than that, you don't want to overemphasize your brand. You just want to make sure that if it's doing remarketing, maybe that the remarketing is keeping the brand in front of them. But other than that, you want to make sure it's all benefiting the customer. So after we've completed the regular headlines, you have long headlines. So you're only required to do one, but I suggest doing multiple long headlines as well. The long headlines is going to be a replacement for the short headlines. So you can keep similar themes in the long headlines. Just remember that it's going to be for a longer ad. If it has room for more text, it's going to add that in and it's going to use your longer headlines versus using the short headlines. And then we go on to descriptions. So you have a short description, it has to be under 60 characters, and then you have a long description, which is under 90 characters. And I didn't explain before, but actually the headlines, your restrictions here, you have 30 characters for your short and then 90 for your long headlines. So you have to stay within those character limits. So descriptions, you're going to want to add a little bit more about maybe about the product or about your brand. Definitely mention again free shipping if that's something you offer. Any kind of benefits, go over those benefits again. These descriptions may or may not show up with your headlines, so just keep that in mind. But the headlines are number one. Then these descriptions I would say are less important, but still you want to do a good job in adding some information in there that's going to be important to the customer. Next down we have our business name. In the business name, you can write it exactly as is. It will pre-fill from your Merchant Center. But if your Merchant Center if it is a really long business name, you may have to change it in order to make it fit. So I've had to do this with a few clients, but most times you can leave it the same. Just make sure it looks good in the way it's written in your business name. Then we get down to some fun stuff here. We have site links. So with site links, I usually like to have a few different things. For one, I like to have a contact page. And two, sometimes I'll put an about page, not always, and depending on what they have on their about page, but a contact page 100%, that's one I want to have on there. And then I try to think about the customer's journey here. What is a customer searching for? So if they're searching for this product or one of the products in here, what else would work for them? So maybe we want to have another link to a collection page that is, maybe it's even a competing product to this. And if someone's searching for this product, maybe they also like this other product. You can have individual products. So I could actually include different product pages in here. So we could have a link to each individual product. You can't go too crazy because there's only so many site links that you can add. I believe you can only add 20 site links. Yes. So it's only 20 site links is the most you can add in here. And if you have site links from other Performance Max campaigns, other campaigns in general, this will allow you to now use those. So if you have some that you want to add. So another one may be a shipping and returns policy. FAQs might be another one that you might want to send people to. So these are ones that they want to skip going to your website. They just want to get to the pages that make sense for them. If you have a variety of products and say you have Nike shoes, but you also sell umbrellas. So in a Nike shoe, when we're advertising our Nike shoes, we probably don't want to put in there anything about our umbrellas because it doesn't make sense for the customer to want to find umbrellas, but maybe something related to their shoes. And maybe it's another Nike product that goes well with those shoes that we could have a link to in here. So there's different options we have available to us. So in this case, I'm going to add some new site links. So I'm going to click on the new site link button and it gives me some options here. I have site link text. So this is going to be the headline. Then I have description 1 and description 2, and then I have a final URL. If you decide to add multiple site links in here all at once, so if I go site link 1, site link 2, and I start adding them all in here, and if I decide I want to add in descriptions for all of them, or one of them, then I have to add descriptions for all of them. So if you add a description for any of them, you'll have to add them in for all the ones that you're adding in right now. So if you don't want to add descriptions, just add the site link text on all of them and the final URL, but don't worry about the descriptions. And then you can always change this later. So if you want to just start with that, that's fine. I find that's usually effective. And then you can always add description later. So that's always an option for you. So in this case, I'm adding a short headline. It's only 25 characters. And then I'm going to add a little bit more in the description of my headline here. So I'm going to go with a description on this one because the products that I'm listing have some good information I can add in there. And I can't fit it all in the headline because you don't get a whole lot of room in a headline. Okay, so in this case, I've created 3 more site links. Just be careful in creating site links because sometimes you can get down to maybe 10 site links and all of a sudden you click off it by accident and everything's gone. So I suggest do maybe 3 of them, save them, and then add some more if you want to add more because it's very frustrating. I've done it before where I've had 5 site links done. I click off by accident and they're all gone. And then I did the same thing again on the same time. I did it again with another 5 site links It's very frustrating. So just be careful when you're doing site links that you don't accidentally click off, because there's a pop-up that comes off. If you click off to the left of that pop-up, all your hard work is gone. So just be aware and save often. So let's continue down. So we have call to action. So automated is probably a fine way to go. We are using Performance Max anyways, so a lot of this is going to be automated. So why not give the system a little more control? So maybe they see learn more as a better option sometimes, or people are more likely to click when it's learn more, or more likely to click when it says shop now. So I would leave it as automated, but if you want, maybe you're running a store and you only want to see shop now. So that might be an option, is to click off shop now. So I'll leave that as automated for myself. And then I'm going to click more asset types, and that's going to bring up some more options here. And I'm not going to add all these, but I'm going to go over them for you. So there's promotions. So if you want to add a promotion in here, you can click on the plus sign for promotions. And there are certain promotions that you can add in. So you could click on the new promotions and you can create a promotion and you can pick a different holiday, or you don't have to select a holiday, it can be none. And you can select the currency if you're going to be doing a monetary discount. There's percentage discounts. There's up to a monetary discount, up to a percentage discount. Just make sure it's something that they can actually use on your website. If it's not, you'll end up with a disapproved promotion asset. Then we have prices down below this. So this is another one that can be useful, especially if you have a list of products at different price tiers. So you can come in here and create a new price, and we can now create for different, say if you have different brands, maybe each brand is a different price, or you have different service tiers, different product tiers. Maybe there's different prices for if you're a service business, different locations, events, all kinds of different things you can do in here. And you can add in a different price for each. If it was an e-commerce store, so if I was going to do this with the store I'm working on here, I would use it for a product tier. In this case, I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to leave this one blank. It might be something I look at later, but right now I'm going to leave this one as blank. Then we have structured snips below that. So this is a place that you can highlight, say like brand names and stuff like that, or different styles of a product. It's a pretty basic area to write things. So you only have 25 characters and there's no descriptions or anything like that. So it would be a list of brands if you wanted to add them in here. And that would be it. So that's something that you can add in here if you want. I'm gonna leave that one blank for now, but it probably would be something I'm going to look at later. And I keep talking about doing things later, and really optimizing this Performance Max campaign is never ending. There's a lot you can do in a Performance Max campaign, including creating new asset groups later on. So you can start with one, and we can continue to build on that by adding different asset groups. You could add asset groups for certain products, and it can be pretty much a never-ending process here of optimizing your Performance Max. So although there's a lot of automation that happens, there's also a lot of high-level changes that need to be made in a Performance Max campaign. Now we have lead forms as well. So this would be if you have a service business and you have leads that come in, you can actually create a lead form that'll actually take leads in right off the ad. So they don't even have to go to your website. They can actually fill in a lead form right there. It's not something I normally use, but it's something that's available to us. And we have callouts. So callouts are something I add on to almost all of mine. So this could be like free shipping, fast and free shipping, different guarantees that you have on your website. Maybe it talks about your exchanges. So if you have a free exchange program where they can send it back if they don't like it, if you have great support online, or if you have a chat or different things, anything that would help your customer understand more about your business, this is a great place to add that in. So I'm going to check off a few of these. I already have some of them created, but if you need to create them, just go new callout and you can just start listing them out. It's a one line, and the callouts have to be under 25 characters. You can even go as far as going into the advanced settings, and you can change the dates that these will run, also the times. Okay, so that is almost to the end of our asset building. You can add a display path. So this is going to be your URL. You could add in maybe the brand name. So in this case, I'm going to do that. I'm going to add in the brand name. This is going to make the link look pretty, essentially. Instead of having a link with a whole bunch of text after it, or just having maybe your brand without anything, you can have the link slash and then something else, essentially to give yourself some more keywords to help the person understand that they're going to the right place. Then we're on to audience signals. So audience signals is one that people tend to go overboard, I find on. So with audience signals, when I look at it, there's two choices here. You can go with no audience signal, and actually I've found this to be effective without adding an audience signal. So if you've been running shopping ads, standard shopping ads for a while, maybe you don't want an audience signal on it at all. The other option here is to go in and create an audience signal. And let's go through what you can create with an audience signal. So before you get into how to create an audience signal, let's just talk about what they are. So an audience signal is almost like a suggestion for Google. You're saying, Google, this is the type of people I want to see my ad. So I want people that like this. So I want people that like or are ready to buy shoes. I want people that are that enjoy running. I want people that are, and this is what you're saying. You're giving Google hints on where to find your audience. It doesn't mean that these are the only people they're going to go find. In fact, they will take this suggestion and then they will go way past that suggestion and continue to find people that are similar to the people you suggest, and people that aren't even similar to the people you suggest, because they're going to go off and find people that make sense for your brand, no matter what you put in there. But you're kind of giving them a hint. You're giving them a head start on where to find these people. Without putting anything in there, they're going to go off past data and just try to figure out and see if they can figure out where your audience is coming from, what audience is going to be best for your brand. So let's go into it here. So add an audience signal. So you might see, if you've ever added one, you'll see it here. If not, you can go new audience, and you're going to just name your audience. This is just for you. So just name it whatever you want. Now we have a few options here. We have custom segments. We have your data. We have interests and detailed demographics. So the ones we want to stick to are interest and detailed demographics is probably one of the ones you want to look at. Your data, depending, maybe. And there's custom segments as well. So a lot of times I might not use custom segments, but let's dive into that one first, because that's the first one on the list here. So custom segments, we can go in there and go new segment. And in here we have to name it again. So we can name it, this is for us again. Now what it's going to allow us to do is type in a keyword. So if we know that someone searches for Nike to find our shoes, we could type in Nike shoes as a keyword and hit enter on that. Now Google's going to know that Nike keywords is a search term that we think is applicable to our brand. So if you're used to dealing with keywords, then this is where you would add them in. So you don't have to go crazy in here. Again, you're just giving suggestions. So we have people with any of these interests or purchase intentions. So you have two different options on how you're going to add them in. You can do search terms, or you can do interests in purchase. So this is more audience based. So you could search for people that like shoes, or maybe people that like running. So I could find running, and then I found, right now when I typed in running, I found 3 runs a week marathon training plan. I found distant running training plan, run long marathon training. So these might be people that have that interest, and maybe those people are looking to buy shoes. We could also type in Nike, even in the interest area here, and we find people that are interested in the Nike company. Then we could go into the search area and we could type in marathon. So maybe we want to find people that are interested in marathons. And now we found half marathon trail run, half marathon running shoes, and different search terms. So this is how we create a custom segment. And then we have your data. So your data is another one here that we can utilize. And essentially it is just how it sounds, your own data. So you can go into browse. So click into the search bar there, and then it'll come up with options, search or browse. And you go into browse and you'll see all the different audiences that you have available to you. You can select some of these audiences. For example, like all visitors is one that's always created for you. There's all converters is another one. So if you have had lots of conversions in the past and Google's been able to track those, then you could click all converters, and Google now has an idea who's converted, who's had a sale in the past. So your customers that have had sales in the past, these are ones that you can now check off and say, I want more of these people because they've had sales in the past. So that's what I'm going to use in this case. And yes, you could technically lead them down the wrong path if you've been tracking the wrong thing or your sales haven't been correct in the past. Same with visitors. If you've been using shopping ads and maybe you haven't had any success, maybe you'll lead them down the wrong path by using your all visitors. So just keep that in mind. Your data can be used and it could be an important piece to your puzzle. So in this case, I'm using all converters in my data. And then we have interests and detailed demographics. So this one can be interesting. You can find almost anything in here that's related to your niche. It has to be a fairly broad niche, but let's look up Nike, and it's going to bring up it's bringing up Nike products, sneaker releases, basketball shoes. So these say in market. So in market means someone's ready to buy something like this, or Google thinks they're ready to buy. So that's what in market means. Affinity, you'll see affinity in here as well. So I have affinity, not infinity. And it says running enthusiasts. So we have women's media fans, casual and social gamers. So like we're getting other kind of random things, but we have running enthusiasts. So maybe that would be a smart one for us to check off if we're selling shoes and we're selling running shoes. So we'd have that affinity market. This doesn't mean they're ready to buy. It means they're interested. They're part of the group that enjoys these things. In fact, if you hover over it, you can see more about it. So if I hover over running enthusiasts, and then I can look at the description here, people who enjoy competitive running or run frequently for leisure, sport, or exercise. So there's more information if you just hover over that. So I'm going to add my audiences in here. So the last one here we have is demographics. Now be careful with this one, but we do have the option to exclude females, males, unknown. So sometimes it'll be unknown. Most times you'll probably have a lot of unknown because of privacy. We also have the option to exclude age groups, and we can even exclude parents, non-parents, again, unknown. We can exclude different household incomes, or include certain household incomes. Again, I would probably just leave this one alone and not change it, because this is the whole reason behind a Performance Max campaign. You want it to optimize for you. You don't want to assume you know your audience and make the wrong assumption and end up with an account that's not working properly. Again, these are suggestions, so we're still in audience signals. So it's only suggestions, but we want to suggest the right things. We want it to kind of look in the right areas. But if you do have a completely male-dominated item, like it's something that there's only 10% of women enjoy this, maybe there's 90% it's all male, or maybe it's 90% all female, then maybe you do want to exclude the opposite sex and see if that helps. Same with age groups. Maybe you try to adjust it, but I'd be leery of adjusting too much in this area. Even Google suggests all demographics recommended. So I would leave that as is unless you have a reason not to. Let's go save. So now we have an audience signal. We have an asset. Let's go next. It's on to budget. So whenever I start a new campaign, I always set the budget to 0.01. And this is because I'm never surprised if I have a 0.01 budget. Now, the only problem that can come out of this, if you're already running a shopping campaign and you set if you set to target all products and you already have all products in your shopping and you have now 0.01, Performance Max is going to take over a lot of that budget. And if it only has 0.1, all of a sudden you're not going to be spending anything anywhere. So just keep that in mind. But most times it's safe to kind of go on the lower end of your budget. It's going to give you warnings and everything. If you know the budget, go ahead and enter it in here. But I usually start with 0.01 just to be safe. Now it's checking for errors. So once I hit next, it checks for errors and makes sure that there's no other problems. If you see any errors, you have to go on the left side. And the warnings are different than errors. So if you get a warning, that's fine. If it says you're not going to get any traffic, that's probably because we have a 0.01 budget. If you see an error though, say something, maybe there's some text that's wrong. A lot of times putting an exclamation point or exclamation mark in your heading will cause an error. So all you have to do is go off to the left and you can go and cycle through the different areas of your campaign until you fix the problem, and it'll usually highlight with red. And it might even have a link directly to that error. And you just go ahead and fix that error. It'll probably give you guidance on how to fix it. Like I said, a lot of times it's due to putting an exclamation point or mark into your headline or something like that, or having all capitals. That's another one you can't do. All right, now we're going to hit publish. So if you don't have any errors, you can go ahead and hit publish. Okay, now that we have that done, we're going to actually look into this. We're not quite done with our campaign. Although it's published and it's technically live, and this is why I put a 0.01 budget on it, but it's just kind of a safety thing I like to have on there. I'd rather underspend than overspend. So let's go into a few of the problems that come up. The one that comes up is under our settings. So we want to go back to our Performance Max, go to settings. This is one location setting that we can't change when we're creating our account. So we go under campaign settings and you'll see additional settings, and then you go under locations, and in there you'll now see location options. So it drops down, you'll see the locations that we set. In my case, United States, and we have Alaska and Hawaii excluded. Right below that, we see location options, and we click that, and it drops down another menu, and it says target. We have the option to target presence or interest. So this is people that are present in the area we selected, or they're interested in that area. And what I've found is if I leave this as is, I get people from different countries. So if I'm targeting the United States, I might get someone from Thailand that's now interested in the United States. So they are showing up in my ads. So if this is something you don't want, you have to change it. So in this area, we change it from presence or interest to presence, people in or regularly in. Now under the exclude, it's usually set up properly. So presence, people in your exclude location. If you wanted to, you could exclude people, presence or interest, people in regularly. So you could actually even tighten that up further if you wanted. So people in that location or present or interested in would be excluded. So if someone's in your targeted location, but let's say Hawaii is my excluded location. So if someone's in another part of the United States and they type in this item in Hawaii, it's going to exclude that. I haven't found this to be an issue, so I leave it as is, as presence. I think that's fine, but that's how it would work if you wanted to change it. And we hit save. So while we're in here, I always like to double check that I'm targeting the right area. So I have targeted location, it looks correct. The excluded locations look correct. Always double check that. Then we want to make sure we have the right products listed. These are the checks that I do after the fact. I always go back and I double check this. If you don't, you're going to get burned on something here and something's going to be causing a problem. And these are kind of the quick checks you can do. So locations, and then you're going to check on your listings. So it's under listing groups, under the campaign, under listing groups. You're going to find now you can see what products are being listed, and you'll see the asset group beside it. If you have multiple asset groups, you'll have to click on the asset group you want to open up. But if we just started this, you'll only have one. Now you can click the plus sign beside the brand. Say if you had a brand name, you can click the plus sign now, and now you can add in product types, item IDs. So if you want to break this down further and maybe you only wanted certain item IDs to be shown, so certain products to be shown, you can now break this down to that level. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight them all and save them. So now I can see from my brand name, I can go down one more level and I can see all the products as well. And then I'm going to include, there's an everything else category. So just make sure that the main one is excluding. If you're separating things like this, if all your products are in here, don't worry about it. Just include all the everything else categories. If you're only targeting certain brands in your Performance Max, just be careful not to include the everything else category that's attached to all your other products, because otherwise your Performance Max will take over everything. So under the brand name, if you drop that down, the brand name drop down, I can now see an everything else category in there. I'm including that. But the main everything else category is excluded, which is what I want. So that's good. So I checked my products are listed correctly. And then I'm going to ensure that I have the right bidding strategy. Go back into the settings and just double check you have the right bidding strategy. Mine says maximize conversion value. That's the one I want. If you were doing, you only have two options here. So you have a couple options. There's maximize conversion value and there's target ROAS, which is checking off the box. Then there's conversions or CPA, which is like a target ROAS, but it's on just with conversion. So value means it's gonna adjust for the value of your products, And conversions means it's just going to try to get you as many conversions as possible, but it doesn't matter what the value is. So if it's $10 versus 1,000, it doesn't matter to the system. It's just going to treat it all the same. So I like to have conversion value. And then another thing you can actually look at, and this is new to Performance Max, is negative keywords. You can't add them in here, but you can add negative keywords to your account level. So if there's anything that you definitely do not want to show up for, and be careful with this, but if there's something like, this is not just an optimization thing. This is if there's something you really don't want to show up for, or maybe you're getting calls for a certain thing, like people are trying to rent a product and you don't rent products. You could add a negative keyword rent into your account level. So I'll show you how to get there. First, before you get there, you go all the way back to all campaigns. Then you go to your settings and you're going to see an option for account settings. In your account settings, you're going to find an option to adjust this. So you'll see negative keywords. So you can go in there and now you can add negative keywords in here. You can only add up to 1,000, but again, just be careful. This is going to apply to every campaign in your entire account. So make sure it's something you don't want to see. Next, we want to make sure we have a budget set. So right now we have 1 penny as a budget. Now I have multiple campaigns in here and I have a pretty large budget to work with in here. So I'm going to arrange things to allow this to spend. And initially, I'm only going to give it a small budget, but as it proves itself, I'm going to increase that budget. So we're going to start out with maybe a small budget compared to this. I won't go over the actual budgets here, but we'll give it a small budget to start with. And then as it improves, we'll increase that budget. So I'm going to go ahead and set that right now. Okay, so I've now confirmed I have a new budget, and that budget is small comparative to the campaign. But if you're doing this with a new campaign, obviously it'll just be your entire budget. Probably would be going to Performance Max unless you have something like a dynamic display remarketing campaign or some other campaigns running. I usually do have a variety of campaigns running at once, even with Performance Max. But if you're just running the one, it'll probably do pretty well if on its own. So you can give it the whole budget if you like. But that's one of my checks, is just make sure my budget is set up properly. And that's pretty much it. I think we've hit all the points of creating a Performance Max campaign. There's quite a bit to it, and now you can go back and go over like site links, add more site links in. You can go in and optimize that way. It's going to take a good day or two before this actually starts to run properly. Performance Max, depending how new your campaign is or account is, like I expect to see some clicks by tomorrow. I'll see clicks happening even today. I'll see some clicks happening today, but I wouldn't be watching until tomorrow. I won't worry about it. But then tomorrow I will look back and I'll probably see some clicks that have happened today. It does a pretty good job at getting online pretty quickly for an account that's been up and running for a while. For a new campaign, it's probably going to take a little bit longer because it's going to have to get approved, and the approval process, I believe, would take a little longer with a new campaign. But ultimately, we have completed it. Set yourself a reminder to check on this in a couple of days or in a day, and just watch, make sure that you're getting some spend to this. If not, look back and see if you made a mistake somewhere. But ultimately, it's pretty easy to get going. And it's going to be now about optimizing the ad copy. It's going to be about optimizing your assets, seeing if you can get better photos, if you can do some video assets. I don't think we actually touch base on video assets. I'll just talk quick about them as a bonus here. A video asset, if you don't add in a YouTube video asset, which we did talk about the YouTube ones, which is great, but if you don't add one in, what happens is Google will actually create you a video for your brand. And it will take the ad copy that you have written down. It will pair that ad copy with the photos that you have, and it'll create an automated video. And it actually does a pretty good job. It puts some music to it, and it does a pretty good job at highlighting some of the ad copy and the images. So you can see these later on by going through your assets. Yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to let it do this. It does a pretty good job this way. But if you have some actual videos that you want to add in, then that's probably the best way to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Bye.